Hello, everybody, and welcome back to 50 Shades of Tay. I'm Taylor Gonzalez, and today I have a very special guest with me. One of my favorite new films on Netflix is Girl Haunts Boy, and I have the composer here with me today, Keegan DeWitt. Keegan, how are you doing today?
Good, man. Thank you for having me.
Oh, thank you for being here. This movie is so special, and I love it so much. And first of all, congratulations on it being released finally, because I spoke with Emily, and I know that it had a journey to be released. So congratulations on it being out there. And just what a special film, and perfect timing too. October, Halloween is less than a week away at this point. How does it
Yeah,
feel to have your movie out there for everyone to enjoy?
great. I mean, we had a little like private screening to celebrate with everybody and watching it. Like you said, it's been a little bit since we finished it, and it was just such a pleasant experience. Not only to know that it was going to finally reach the world, but just to I don't know. It's like I work on so much stuff that my kids can't watch, and my daughter got to come with me to like the final mix of this at the studio and stuff, and. I just it's such a tender and loving film, and it has so much depth I just feel like there's not a ton of stuff like it getting made, and I'm glad that it's out there, and that hope and uh your interview being proof of people discovering it and really enjoying it.
Yeah, it's such a fun film. If you haven't watched it yet, I highly recommend going and checking it out. And like you mentioned, it's a perfect film for the whole family. It's, I guess people are calling it horror light, which is, I think, a good description of it. And it's just, everyone can enjoy it. And it has stuff I didn't expect. I thought it was just going to be like a romantic comedy and light and fun, which it is, but it
Yeah.
also deals with grief and it has some really good messages and really good lessons that people could take away from this film as well.
Yeah, I think that, the cool thing about it, I have this because I'm the father to an 11 and 9-year-old, is that I'm constantly searching for films that um, can let people experience what an adult world is like in a way that is not scary or intentionally trying to be crazy dark or something like that. Like you said, it's like it's spooky,
Mhm.
but it's not it's not a horror movie. And it's also like has dramatic depth that deals with death and relationships and the disconnect that happens between teenagers and parents that's kind of inevitable and just the miscommunications that happen there. But doing it in a way where it's like you're never like, is he not supported? Is he not loved by his parents?
Right.
Or was she, sorry, and all of it.
So I want to ask you a question that I also asked the director of the movie, Emily Ting. Do
Yeah.
you believe in ghosts?
No, I don't. But I have to because I'm a dad, so I have to constantly be the one who's like, no, of course not. That's ridiculous to get people to go back to bed.
I just thought that was a fun question to ask because you never know. I told Emily too, like I'm on the fence. I could go either way. Like she had a really good answer where she doesn't believe in ghosts in the typical like Hollywood sense, like what you see in movies, but that
Yeah.
she does believe, like there is some kind of spiritual uh being after people pass, which I think I'm
Yeah.
more on board with what she thinks than, the stuff that we see like in Ghostbusters or in
Yeah,
Casper, stuff like that.
110%. Yeah, yeah. And I definitely feel like there's places, I mean, I can even say, recording this in like really famous recording studios where you walk in and you're like, this room has something in it. This
Yeah.
is I could tell that Frank Sinatra stood over there. You know what I
Oh
mean? It
wow.
feels that way. And so I definitely believe in that kind of the vibes that live in a lot of these amazing recording studios that we have around Hollywood.
So I love interviewing composers because the without your guys' music, these projects would just, I don't know, not have any of this emotional impact that they have. I think it was who was it? It was either Spielberg or John Williams. I saw an interview recently where someone was talking about how the key to a good score to a film is if you watch the scene without any music
Yeah.
and it just falls flat. So I love getting to speak with composers. And what's interesting to me is when I interview composers, whether it's for a video game, a TV show, a movie, they all get different things to work with when scoring these projects, which kind
Yeah.
of blew my mind. Like everyone comes at it from a different angle. So I've talked to people who have the entire finished product and they're able to score like to the completed thing. I've talked to people
Yeah.
who don't see a single frame of what they're scoring and I don't understand how that works. And then I've also talked to people who just have like concept art and maybe like some rough sketches and animatics, I guess, of what they're
Yeah.
scoring. So when you scored this film, what did you have to work with?
Well, I always prefer to come in totally at the very, very beginning before anything is done, like basically at the script stage. And the reason that I like to do that, I mean, I think people understand this, but how, just technically to explain how a lot of movies are made is usually a composer will not come into the project until it's basically done. It'll be totally picture locked, meaning there'll be no more editorial changes to happen. And a necessity of picture locking is that they temp in score. And sometimes it's not your score. Sometimes it is your score, and that can be both a good thing and a bad thing. But the what I found to be an inevitable result of that is that it's almost impossible to do anything really crazy, really brave, really different. And so I like to come in early. One is a way of kind of building faith and rapport with a filmmaker. Like, for example, Emily and I hadn't worked together before. So it's like I find that how my career grows is by building friendships creatively with these filmmakers and growing with them and doing multiple projects, not just one project. And so I want to bro down and like really just have fun. You know what I mean? So that's a part of it. But also it means that we can do something crazy and have it in our toolkit before the editor even gets brought on, right? So that there's no putting other music in there and then they suddenly, I mean, it's a very powerful drug when suddenly, as you said, a scene starts to work with that one piece of music from some movie that they can't use. And then suddenly you're here doing everything you can to not get put in composer jail to recreate it. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Uh, and that also plays into a factor here where the studio, for no real fault of their own, I think they just, they make these budgets, but they kind of came in and when they hired me, they said like, we think it's gonna just be like very chill, lots of synths and like maybe like some with some acoustic guitars and stuff, but nothing big, like nothing big, basically. And I just kind of was like, no, I don't want to do that, And I try to be cognizant of what I'm putting out in the world and creating so that because you don't think about it maybe, but you're creating kind of a legacy, not only in terms of like legacy, but just also how people perceive you as a film composer. And I was like, I don't want to make small scores that sound indie, And I was like, this movie, I want it to feel big. And I feel like B and his personhood, there's multitudes to it. I think that that's like what you're alluding to, what you like about it. And it's not just sort of like this, like your classic couple needle drops and then your little dinky dinky score. It's that when she comes up the stairs at the ball, it's like, whoa, you're seeing her like as like oh, when he's looking through the book, it's like you're seeing her become a woman and live this incredible life, and that's not indie film score. So I literally just took the job knowing that I was going to ignore that fact that they wanted it to sound small and cheaper and less of a budget. And I was like, I'm gonna make a score that is big and works in a way where I'll convince them to pay for the orchestra. And that's basically what we did, is that I created this 10-minute suite for Emily. And it had the big strings and it had that whole ending cue that leads to him on the stage. And we basically put it throughout the entire movie and then went to our great producers who were really supportive and said, do you want to cut a check to pay for the orchestra? And thankfully they went and found some money somewhere in a, piggy bank. And that's what we did. And we recorded the orchestra, but that was never the plan for this movie. So
Ah, that is awesome. Yeah, I'm very glad that you went and did that because it really does pay off and it really does add to the movie. And it's just such a great score. I feel like if you have already seen this film, for people who are watching this interview, if you've already seen the film, I would say go watch it again and this time really focus on the score because it's great. And just to know something like that, like all the hard work that goes into creating a score for a movie like this is just so great to hear. And just congratulations again, like on how much everything just works together perfectly. One thing that I wanted to ask you about is so Michael has, I think, three songs
uh-huh.
on this soundtrack. Did you work with him on those songs as well?
It's funny because how I know Emily basically is we indirectly have connected based on a film that I did with a filmmaker, Brett Haley, called Hearts Beat Loud, which is a film where I both scored it and wrote the original songs for the band in that movie. But weirdly, on this movie, I didn't write the original songs, which was kind of nice. I mean, I actually enjoy because I come from a songwriting background and have been in a band in the past and often get asked to write songs. And sometimes it's fun and I enjoy it. But in this case, I really, like, as I said, kind of alluded to, I really wanted to lean into let's make this like an old Hollywood film
Yeah.
score that is big, you know, and that really took up a lot of time. So I was really happy to sort of like give that to Cheche to do such an amazing job with, and he wrote those songs and he took the lead on all that, which was great. So I got to kind of like stay in my lane for once.
Oh, very nice. Yeah, those songs that Michael did and then your songs, everything just like flows together perfectly.
Yeah, it was really strange to A, finally meet the songwriter, but B, like see it all come together because like
Yeah.
I heard like the sketches basically like that they gave to the actors to learn the songs, but to then hear it all put together, I was like, oh wow. I mean, especially for me, like I worked so hard to make that final cue leading up to his song on the stage be this thing that really delivers, and then to be like hear the song that kind of really puts the cherry on top of it. I was like felt really, really grateful to be kind of like teammates even from afar with them.
Oh, that's great. So of the 18 songs that are on the soundtrack, 15, if I'm doing the math right, 15 of them that you did,
Yeah.
is there one that you're most proud of?
I mean, the first main long theme, which is like basically, you know, it's that ending piece of music, more or less. And that was our primary suite. So often, like sometimes it'll be a 10-minute long suite with four different themes in it. And in this case, it was more kind of like slightly shorter, 4 or 5 minutes, but it was that whole sequence. And it's the first thing that I sat down that was like came out at the piano and then I orchestrated and sent to Emily as kind of my first like, here's what I'm thinking. And so yeah, that to me, like I was really, really pleased with that one. I
Oh,
think it's
great.
called A Life Lived. Yeah.
Yeah, I love some of the titles of the songs too, like Bee's Knees. I just think some of them are like so clever.
Yeah, it's that's just me sitting watching through when I have to create names for things on my list. So often it's from their dialogue or something like that, you know.
Yeah, very fun. So I love collecting vinyl records, and I
Yeah.
have so many of my favorite soundtracks and film scores on vinyl. Like right now, I'm looking over there. I have the Scream. It's like a box set of all the Scream
Cool. Yeah, yeah,
soundtracks. Do you know
yeah.
if there's any plans for a physical release of this soundtrack?
I don't think that there is for this one. It's really hard. I mean, you're talking to somebody who has like an entire room in their house filled with vinyl records that my wife is constantly like, that's what this room is for. But and so I feel you. I'm right there, and like for me, soundtracks also are something that I really hunt down. But it's hard to convince
Mm,
people to do it. I really like. It shouldn't be because now vinyl does sell, but it's just like they're especially with Netflix, not to drag on Netflix, but just any streamer in general, they're like very reticent to want to press things on vinyl unless it is like Stranger Things or
mm,
something like that. So it's something that I actually work hand in hand with my agent to try and to slice in on stuff to even say like, hey, if you guys don't want to pay to press this, will you allow me to do a private press of 500 that I can sell to fans? Because there's projects, you know, like this one where there are people who are really passionate
yeah.
about collecting the vinyl that I wish that like at no profit to me, I wish that I could just say, hey, here's a cool number, you know, number 25 of 500 that I can sign and people can have. Because I think it is such a cool, I think that that's something that gets lost in the streaming era is how much people really like to have a token of something. You know what I mean? Even if they
Yeah.
don't have a record player, it's crazy how many people will want to have just have it to say that
Mm,
they've got it, you know?
yeah. Hopefully one day, fingers crossed
Yeah.
that hopefully one day we get a physical release for this because I would love that. You know what else I would love too? If it wasn't vinyl,
Yeah.
a cassette tape
Yeah.
of it would be perfect. And it's crazy because I've been saying that recently for like 80s soundtracks and scores.
Yeah.
I feel like lately they've been doing more and more cassettes. So
Totally.
I don't know who's doing it, but I like it. So
I know. I'm
hopefully
like, I
something like
can't
that.
get any more media happening. I got a record room. I can't have a cassette room. I don't have enough rooms for
Oh
that.
my God. It's crazy. The record player I have has a cassette player built into it too. So it's
Cool.
pretty
Yeah.
nice that it's like a dual function.
Yeah.
Uh,
That's dope.
would love to have it on cassette. So we are less than a week away from Halloween, which is my favorite holiday, in case you couldn't tell. So I was wondering what some of your favorite Halloween movies are.
Gosh, I mean, clearly Beetlejuice, the original Beetlejuice is a big one. And but really the one that sticks in my mind that was like such a big piece of my childhood was and I think it's actually a second part of a two-part like TV special is the Tale of Ichabod Crane, the Disney animated. piece. Like
Mhm.
that for me when I was a kid, I just loved that. I don't know why I was so drawn to it, but it was like every Halloween I would watch it over and over and over again. And I just recently went back to kind of pull it out because my daughter is also obsessed with
Oh,
Halloween. And it's like we yesterday we drove, she's making me get a costume for Halloween, and so we drove to Spirit Halloween of all places.
oh yeah.
And I had to be like, when we go in there, we're only getting one thing. She's like, why? Why are you so serious? And I was like, because your favorite thing is Halloween, and that's all this store is. You're gonna walk in and freak out.
Oh my
Yeah.
gosh. That store is dangerous
Yeah.
because not only do they sell costumes, but they sell mugs, they sell like tumbler cups, they sell I
Yeah.
don't know, like soap dispensers, everything you can think of, and it's for like a bunch of different horror franchises like
Oh,
Scream, Friday the
totally.
13th. So it's just like you could go in there for one thing. It's kind of like Target. You go in there for one thing and then you leave with the whole cart full.
Oh
So
yeah, they've
yes.
got the snake up to the checkout, and it's just keeping her from grabbing things was like, no, don't look at that. Don't look at
Yeah.
that. Here we go.
Yeah. It's very, very tough to just leave there with one item.
Totally. Yeah.
So I normally ask people about what some of their favorite scores are for films, but since we're so close to Halloween, what are some of your favorite scores to horror films specifically?
Gosh. Yeah. I'm trying to think. I mean, I really love the original Halloween score. It's really incredible. And I really like, I mean, the thing that like we have the picture disc vinyl for Nightmare Before Christmas. And I
Oh
know
yeah.
that that sort of splits the zone between two different holidays, but like we really wear it out. And like speaking of like fandom and collecting stuff, like me and my daughter who's obsessed with Halloween, we went to see them perform it live here in LA, and it is insane. I mean, it feels like you're like at the gathering of the Juggalos or something. It's so many people, and it's they're all obsessed, and it's like
Mhm.
it is intoxicating to do because it's just like it brings people out of the woodwork, and it's really really cool. So that's probably one of my favorite ones. It's one of the ones where like when we carve pumpkins and stuff, we throw it on.
Yeah, that is such a good one. Was the concert at the Hollywood Bowl?
I wish they do it at the soccer stadium here because
Oh,
it's
right.
like
Okay.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah. And
Ah,
Billie
very fun.
Eilish, the one that we went to, Billie Eilish sang Sally's part, which was great.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, I've always wanted to go, and every year I'm like, next year, next year. I think next year for real, because it's too late this year. Next year for real, I
Yeah.
have to do it because it's just like a once in a lifetime opportunity to get to see
Oh,
all these people together on stage, and then, like you said, all the fans, and I'm sure
yeah.
there's
It's even like
cosplaying.
aside from the performance, it's like the vibe. It's like tailgating or something like that. It's great.
Yeah, I have to do it. So I know you're currently working on the score for People We Meet on Vacation, which stars Lucas Gage and Molly Shannon. Are you able to talk about that project at all?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, that's similar, and that it's like it's another a collaboration with Brett Haley, who we did Hearts Beat Loud. And the great thing about Brett is that he's like sets this steadfast fast rule of like we're not going to temp with anything that's not our music. So I had I've gone through three versions of the script. It's already, it's changed and stuff. And then even now, like, so I'll write an entire suite and send that off to Brett. And in this case, it's like, it's a lot of music. I don't know. It's because we want to, again, like we want to push it and not make it just be exactly what you'd think a rom-com would be, which is just like some goofy stuff and then some sappy stuff and then it's over. And so Brett wants to make it cinematic, which I appreciate, and like pushing it and elevating it and making it really seem cool. So we're in the middle of that now, and they're shooting all over the world, and it's crazy bunch of different locations. And then as that's happening, I'm working with the really talented editor Evan Henke to get music in there. So it's the kind of thing where like it really doesn't work this way in Hollywood, where it's like usually it's like it's locked off and I don't touch it. And people do this mainly to protect their time so they don't get abused. But because Brett, I build these friendships, and Brett and I are friends, and it's like we want to do it right. So we do it a lot more like boutique than if it was like Dune 2 or something like that. And so it's like I'm getting scenes and I'm composing and sending them back and getting them and sending them back. So hopefully by the time Brett even sits down to look at his first assembly, he'll have a good amount of original score that's just for that movie.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, I can't wait. I was looking at the cast for this and it's just incredible. So I can't wait for that to come out. Looks like it's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, it's looking really great.
Ah. Yes. Speaking of upcoming projects, where would be a good place for people to follow you and keep up with all your upcoming releases?
The best is probably just Instagram. It's my name, Keegan DeWitt, on Instagram, and I post stuff on there all the time. We got a bunch of stuff coming. I just did a movie with Tim Robinson from I Think You Should Leave and Paul Rudd called Friendship that just was bought by A24. So that'll probably come out sometime after the new year, something like that. That is wild and crazy, as anybody who's a fan of Tim Robinson would know. And yeah, a bunch of other stuff, but that's the most exciting thing on the horizon.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Keegan, for taking the time to join me today. I really appreciate it. And hopefully you get one more trip to Spirit Halloween between now and Halloween.
Because you know that as soon as Halloween happens, they shut the door and just evaporate. No one knows where they go.
Yeah, you still have, I think, 6 days to get one more shopping trip in.
Awesome. Okay. Yeah.
Thank you,
Thanks for
Keegan.
having me.
Have a great day.
You too.
Bye.